My core philosophy is every question should get answered. A lot of people don't agree with it. A lot of people think questions should not be answered. But my philosophy is it should be answered because there is no greater pressure than answering a question.
Hello and welcome. This is Puneet Surana and you are listening to the Galata podcast. Galata is a word from the Indian language Kannada that means the noise caused by a ruckus. This podcast is about starting up while we are still in college, testing ideas, creating a team, building something worthwhile, and adding value to other people's lives. Join us as we discuss the thrill of earning your first buck, tackling uncertainties, overcoming obstacles, and delighting others. Most of all, the Galata podcast is about seeing, understanding, and implementing so you can deliver on your audacious promise. We're joined by someone who studied MBBS at Armed Forces Medical College, Pune. He served in the Indian Army as a doctor in multiple counterinsurgency, high altitude, and peace locations for 7 years and became a major in 2013, but gave it all up to pursue quizzing. And today he is a prominent quizzer and quizmaster in India. As a quizzer, he has won and been placed at many prestigious open quizzes, such as India's biggest open quiz, the Landmark Quiz, and the Karnataka Quiz Association's Mahaquizzer and Megawhats. He has been 6-time winner of the World Quizzing Championship Kerala edition, and he's a member of the Bangalore-based quizzing team CIDs From Kerala. I need to know what that stands for. He's also passionate about traveling, reading, and football. So please join me in welcoming the man loved by thousands and respected by the entire Indian quizzing fraternity, Major Chandrakant Nair.
Thanks, Puneet. Pleasure to be on Galata at IIM Bangalore on Krishna Vista. Thanks for having me.
You've been coming to IIM Bangalore and it's like a second home.
Yeah, Bangalore in general is where most of my quizzing activities are based. So before the pandemic, I used to be in Bangalore for a quiz every 2 weeks. And I've generally been traveling to Bangalore for quizzes for nearly 10-15 years now. So ever since my college days during my army days, while I was an open quizzer. So most of my quizzes are based out of Bangalore. So yes, Bangalore and the quizzing circle here is definitely home or second home, you can call it.
This is a very thriving quizzing culture.
Absolutely. In my opinion, no better city or circuit in India for quizzes than Bangalore and to an extent Chennai. The best quizzes, the most prolific, the most number of quizzes, everything is in Bangalore and Chennai. So definitely yes.
Why?
Primarily because the quizzing culture here is in existence since the early 1980s. Something called the Karnataka Quiz Association has been set up in 1984, and it's been a flag bearer of quizzing here in Bangalore and Karnataka in general. And quizzes have been happening in Bangalore at different levels, schools, college, open, almost all of them under the aegis of KQA for nearly 40 years now. So over a period of time, that culture is so deeply entrenched here, and it's arguably the best city to be in India in terms of quizzing culture. We call it an underground culture, which not too many people know about.
Correct.
It's such a closely knit community. People, in fact, travel all the way from Bangalore to even Kuala Lumpur, Dubai for quizzes. So, extremely passionate, enthusiastic quizzer all across the city, and many of them, like the audience of your podcast, are from top companies. For example, one of the quizzers, Mitesh Agarwal, he's the CTO of Oracle India. So plenty of names from across the spectrum involved in quizzing in Bangalore and India in general.
So it's fair to assume the techies are the ones who are... it's very geeky to be...
Because it is Bangalore, techies form a big chunk of quizzers here in Bangalore. In fact, a lot of people who graduate from colleges, from engineering colleges, they prefer to take their placement in Bangalore primarily for quizzing. A lot of people, life decisions are governed by quizzing in general. So that also is there. People are so passionate about quizzing that if they are given an option between, let's say, Delhi or let's say Ahmedabad and Bangalore, they almost always pick Bangalore because of the number of quizzes and the quality of quizzes out here.
This is very surprising, yeah?
Yeah, quizzes in that regards are pretty crazy. I mean, they go to any extent to go and attend quizzes.
Tell me more.
Let me give you my own example. Next weekend, there is a quiz series happening in Chennai. So, just like KQ in Bangalore, there's something called the Quiz Foundation of India. Again, one of the oldest quizzing communities in India. So, they are organizing their annual fest. So, people are coming down from all the way from Delhi, Calcutta, Dubai, Kuala Lumpur to Chennai for these quizzes. 6 quizzes over a period of 3 days, and all these such fests happen across the country. I mean, there is the Kolkata International Quiz Festival, there is an annual quiz festival organized by the Delhi Quiz Club, there is one happening in Ahmedabad. The Bombay Quiz Festival happened just about a couple of months ago. Karnataka Counterinsurgencies Quiz Festival Askans happened about a month ago. So very thriving, vibrant quizzing culture across India, and people travel like crazy. For example, today's quiz here at IIM Bangalore is just one quiz under the aegis of Vista, but people are traveling all the way from Delhi for this one quiz. I mean, if you look at let's say they're traveling, the air tickets, everything, they won't even break even, but still people are just traveling all the way from Delhi to Bangalore just for the passion of quizzing.
Cool.
Usually people don't travel for a single event, but in this case they're coming down from Bombay, they're coming down from Chennai, Hyderabad. And that too, like for example, one of the participants today is somebody called Srinath Bashim. Srinath Bashim is the chief operating officer of Sunrisers Hyderabad, the IPL team. He's a top quizzer, and again he's coming down to participate, yeah. Oh. So that's how passionate quizzers are here in India.
When was the first quiz that you were a part of?
My very first quiz was way back in school while I was in 3rd, 4th standard. So again, my quizzing story has a very interesting origin story behind it. I belong to Kerala, from the city called Calicut in North Kerala. So in the 1990s, one of the worst things about Kerala was frequent power cuts. So every evening the power used to go off for an hour or so, and so we are 3 brothers and both my parents are doctors. So after coming back from hospital at around 7 p.m., they found it really hard to keep us under control. 3 boys and creating all the ruckus possible in the world. So my dad used to be a quizzer in college. So he wanted to find a way to keep us under control, chill, and sitting in one particular place. So this is what he came up with. During power cuts, ask them questions. So he used to bring toffees every day. Token, you ask a question, you get a toffee. So during power cut, this is what used to happen. My dad would ask us questions and we would try and answer. So that is where my interest into quizzing sort of came in, and gradually morphed into quizzing in school, college, and then open quizzing.
Who was the better among the 3 brothers?
Definitely my brothers, I would say. I mean, both of them are not actively quizzing now, but both of them used to quiz frequently in school. But I'm the only one who sort of continued it even after school.
That is very fascinating. Reminds me of Gifted Hands, where there's this very beautiful scene that I go back to again and again, where the mom gets both the boys to shut the TV after that beautiful moment where she goes to this professor's house and she's moving a rack of books, and suddenly she realizes there's a TV behind the rack of books that's hardly used, and then she looks around and there's no wall, it's panned with books everywhere. She comes home and she gets both of these boys to get off TV and go to the library and start reading. And that is that one small shift.
That is the shift that actually is needed in a field like quizzing, that interest into books, to read books, to find them fascinating. So what I've generally seen is, if you're a good reader, if you're a voracious reader, you're automatically a great quizzer as well. Because if you've been reading for 20-25 years, you're automatically a super quizzer. Because what goes into quizzing is your accumulated knowledge, be it reading, be it whatever. For example, if I talk to you, I'm fairly certain I'll get something out of you. So that goes into, for example, you just mentioned Galata. So I was thinking, okay, why not make this a question? So everything is, as a quizzer, I mean, if you keep your eyes and ears open, that is all that you need. So most quizzers in India, I mean, they are extremely good readers as well, with extensive quizzing book collections. In fact, I'm sure you're aware of Blossoms in Bangalore. So KQA doesn't give out the monetary rewards. So KQA always gives out book coupons. So even for their annual festival, instead of giving people a prize money of 5K, 10K, it's just book coupons worth 250 rupees, 500 rupees. So just to encourage or get people into that habit of quizzing, which is what I think is everyone should follow, instead of resorting to huge prize monies, maybe convert that same amount into book coupons and something interesting.
Oh, not cash prize, but book coupons.
Correct, yeah. That's what we've generally tried to do. I mean, KQA has actively promoted that culture. There's never been a prize money quiz here in Bangalore under the aegis of KQ. It's always been book coupons.
What a nice way to reinvest, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This makes the overall community stronger.
Extremely, yep.
Yeah. Otherwise, cash would go wherever.
Absolutely.
Especially in the young hands.
Yeah.
But book coupons, wow. And still pulls people in. That is astonishing.
And you go to a bookstore like Blossoms and you just wouldn't want to get out the kind of stuff that they have there. In fact, again, very nice story about Blossoms. So I read a lot. Whenever I travel to Bangalore from Kerala, it's pretty difficult for me to carry all the books that I want. I mean, at any given time, I can only maybe carry 10 to 15 books to Kerala. So I generally end up finding more than 10 to 15 books during my visits to Blossom. So I end up finding at least 25-30 books that I want to purchase. So I end up hiding these books in various corners of Blossom just so that that the stock remains. And during my next visit, I go and pick them up from these corners of Blossom and then take them. And Blossom is the kind of bookstore where you can easily hide stuff. Yeah.
That's very intriguing. You were an avid reader?
Yeah.
Throughout school and college?
Yeah.
Yeah. Subject material or everything else other than subject material?
Everything. I mean, definitely not subject material. Everything other than subject material. Anything that I can lay my hands on.
Usually quizzes have an area or two that are very naturally inclined. What are those areas for you?
For me personally, science, history. I'm a doctor as well. So medicine.
You're an
MBBS, yeah.
Oh,
I'm a medical doctor as well. In fact, in the army, I served as a doctor for 7 years and then left the army. Then sports is another favorite area. Movies.
What have you left? You've covered everything.
All-time favorite topic would be geography. In fact, the very first book I laid my hands on was an atlas. So as a young kid, my dad gifted me an atlas. So geography is one area that I'm very, very
I love the influence your dad has had on your life. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, my quizzing life has sort of been molded by my father.
Go deeper on that.
He's been a quizzer in his college days, representing his school, college at various levels. So he's got me books throughout my childhood. He's taken me to quizzes. In fact, I've attended quizzes with him as, teammate. Practically my entire family, like my wife, I married for the last 7 years. So my wife was actually my quizzing rival in school. So I used to represent my school at district quiz competitions. She used to represent her school and come. So we were very staunch rivals during school days, and then sort of lost touch after school. And many years later, about 10-15 years later, we met each other at an open quiz, and that's where we sort of got back in touch and things sort of took off from. And again, like I partnered my wife in plenty of quizzes. And I've had a 100% strike rate in quizzes I've teamed up with. We've never lost that. We've always won those quizzes.
This is very unusual, yeah? Your life is completely surrounded around the quizzing culture.
Yeah. And I think that holds true for most quizzers in India. I mean, almost plenty of people, I mean, I don't know if it's right, ideal or not, but their life decisions are governed by quizzing. Where should I get placed? Okay, at Bangalore because it's a great city for quizzing. Which college should I pick for my studies? IIT Madras because it's got the best quizzing club in India. In fact, last year, at least 2 or 3 people before joining IIT Madras asked me, I have so-and-so options, which one should I pick? And they ended up picking IIT Madras because of the quizzing culture there. So, I mean, yeah, for most quizzers, quizzing plays a very important role in their life decisions. And it's mostly worked out well for them.
What's the thrill of quizzing?
Let's say you have absolutely no clue about something and it gets asked as a question in a quiz, and from not knowing anything about it, you end up answering it. So that spark, that thrill of answering something about which you had no clue to start with, I mean, I really can't explain or put it into words.
Correct.
You need to attend the quiz,
Yeah.
do it, go through it, and once that happens, you'll realize the kind of adrenaline rush that gives you. And that sort of hooks people onto quizzing, questions, answers that they've experienced throughout their life. That is what keep people hooked onto quizzing. I mean, such moments, the adrenaline rush, it's similar to the adrenaline rush in a lot of other pleasurable scenarios. That's what keep people hooked onto quizzing.
This is a very reverse perspective where I've always heard people say, I have not used anything I've learned in school ever in my life, or 90% of whatever I've read in school I've never used. But quizzing is a very reverse journey where you somehow discover random connects.
Absolutely.
And then you almost guess it.
Absolutely.
You guess your way to the answer.
Exactly. So let's say a team has 3 members. To start with, nobody has any clue about
Correct.
the question, but one member pitches in with something, the other tells you something else, the third member tells something else. You put the 3 together and then think, oh, this could be this. And then you take a wild shot and it turns out to be the correct answer.
And this is very fascinating because suddenly what the entire rote system that we have that we hate, the entire system of learning subjects that we'll never use, somehow seems to blend in.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a very staunch proponent of the philosophy that there is so much pleasure to be gained from useless knowledge. So most of the knowledge that you come across in your life is of no use to
Correct.
most people. But that's not true as far as quizzing is concerned. There's so much pleasure to be gained from all the useless knowledge that one comes across. I mean, we live for such moments where all this useless knowledge comes
Give us
together.
an instance where you're like, oh my god, I could not believe there could be a question from something this useless.
I'll give you an example of a quiz question that got asked to us at one of the KQA quizzes. So, way back in 2013, there was a History of Ideas quiz which happened at KQA at the annual festival Askans, where a question was asked about a certain system of a business/economics concept, and the clues given were it gets its name from a muse. So there are 9 muses in Greek mythology. So it gets the name from a muse, and the other part of the name comes from a measurement system, a word that denotes measurement of some sort. So at that point in time, we could only think of 2 muses, Clio and Calliope. So we had to pick one. So we thought, okay, which one to pick? Let's go with Clio. And measurement. So what is the term for measurement? Let's say metric. Okay, we said, okay, why not put Clio and metric and put Cliometrics? So we just randomly, we had no idea about the question, we just wrote Cliometrics as our answer. And the answer turns out to be Cliometrics. We were the only team in the entire hall that got that correct. We had no idea about the question to start with, but we knew a muse, we knew a term for measurement, we put them together, turns out to be the right answer, which is all that is required in quizzing as educated guesswork based on stuff that you already know about. Even if you have no idea about anything, you can still get one answer. And that's how Indian quizzing is so extremely different from quizzing in a place like, let's say, the US or the UK, where it's mostly stuff that you know or don't know that gets asked in those circuits, whereas in India, it's mostly to do with workoutability. So people are given questions as problems. So just like you need to solve a murder case, you need to find out what disease a patient has. Similarly,
so there's a narrative.
Exactly, there is a narrative that's given from which people try and pick the clues, put them together, and arrive at a solution.
That feels very wholesome.
Absolutely, you should.
Black and white.
I would absolutely love to have you at the quiz and go through this process.
Trust me, I was there in the last Vistas quiz and I felt so dumb. But there are these moments in quizzes where you go, oh my god. And I think that's where you get to the rabbit hole of things, right?
Exactly.
You want to know more.
Exactly.
And that curiosity drives you.
Exactly.
But I want to look at it from the quizmaster's point of view. How do you design quizzes, or how do you design a set of questions where you're able to tap into the contestants just enough that they could probably guess it?
Exactly.
But not so deep a question where you have to be like a subject matter expert to get it. How do you find that sweet spot?
That sweet spot, in my opinion, comes after you've hosted a few quizzes. So when a quizmaster starts off their quizzing career or a quizzing journey, they may not really get it right the first time. But after one ends up doing a few quizzes, one can easily understand. So after having hosted quizzes for more than 10-15 years now, I think I sort of know how it would be in a place like Bangalore, how it would be in a place like, let's say, Trivandrum, how it would be in a place like, let's say, Vijayawada. So you can anticipate whether a question will get answered in any given circuit. So when I frame questions, I always put myself in the shoes of the participants, and I ask myself, so if I frame it like this, will this question get answered? If the answer is no, I go one step beyond and put in an additional clue. So I repeat this process until the answer is yes. So in my opinion, every single question should get answered. I mean, every single question, at least one team should be able to take a legitimate shot at answering, even if they may not answer it, but they still should have an educated guess at what the potential answer could be. So that is how, in my opinion, all questions should be like. Every question should get answered in a quiz, and I mean, you need not give the question to them on a platter or the answer to them on a platter. Just design them as
want it to work a little.
Exactly. That's the core tenet of Indian quizzing. Questions that are framed as nice little problems that people can put their brains together and solve. And that's how the best quiz teams in the country are experts at this. They'll have no idea about anything to start with, but they will still get to an answer.
They're good at imagination.
Yep. I mean, quizzing is all about imagination and stories. So you have no idea about a question, you just come up with a random story hoping it to be correct, and it invariably turns out to be the right answer.
See, that's where quiz gets humorous.
Exactly.
Right?
A quiz is not just a learning experience. So people are taking their time out a Sunday afternoon and coming for a quiz. So it should be an enjoyable experience as well. So they should have fun attending a quiz. They should get to know about more interesting films, more interesting movies, book recommendations, new places to travel. So this is what we try to give our attendees during quizzes. So more things to take back home. So they would know, okay, there is such a graphic novel, I should go and read about it. Oh, I never knew about this film, I should go and watch it. Oh, what a wonderful song, let me go and hear it again. So this is what we try and give the attendees at every quiz in India. Almost everyone who does a quiz in India, this is what they try and give to their attendees.
The unusual thing is, I have a stereotype that most quizzing circle members are primarily introverts. And I've always understood from introverts that they may be quiet, but they have really loud minds.
Yes.
And quizzing is like a place where their minds are engaged and they get to let it out.
Absolutely.
And they get to shine.
Yeah. So I've always maintained, say, a fest like ASKANS, KQS ASKANS, is an event where you'll find probably the best 200, 300 brains in the country under one single roof. Just like you said, they may be
well-used brains.
Well-used brains. And the amount, I mean, it's a pleasure to be among such an august group. And again, really can't put it into words. You need to be there and experience it to understand.
What does it feel like?
Yeah, the awesomeness of being in a group like that. How people's brains work and get to an answer. You have to be there, see it to believe it. I mean, people come up with such crazy stories, such crazy imagination to concoct an answer. Turns out to be the right one.
Turns out to be the correct one. I think that's like the really sweet spot where a quizmaster has really hit it.
So for a quizmaster, the most satisfying thing would be to see a question hitting a person the way you wanted it. They figure out the right clues, the clues that you wanted them to spot, and then putting them together to get to an answer. I mean, there is no greater pleasure as a quizmaster than this, to see this
You
happen.
almost like finger hold them to the answer. I feel like that.
Yeah.
How do you go hard on them?
I don't think we should go hard on them. We should always go easy. I always tend to err on the side of being easy on people. So, like I said, a quiz should be an enjoyable experience, not just a learning experience. Should be 4 or 5 hours of fun as well. So, the usual format for any quizzes, you have a preliminary round, because at least 100 to 200 teams attend a quiz and you can't really have all of them in a final. So, you whittle it down to say 8 teams. So to get people into the mood, I generally end my prelim session with a nice hip hop song. So people are really in the mood. Okay, now the adrenaline is high and they are now looking forward. So a lot of psychology also goes into setting a quiz.
Go deeper on that.
Yeah, so you start off with a fun question. What I generally do, so this is a quiz happening in IIM Bangalore. The first question will almost always be something to do with Bangalore. So people are into the mood already, and then keep their spirits high throughout the quiz. Every 5 or 6 questions, put in an easy question, because if there's a series of tough questions, people just tend to lose interest. So put an easier question every now and then. Put a nice peppy song every now and then. So the spirits are high, people stay in the mood and keep their focus. And you end the quiz with probably, so the tendency in quizzes, so let's say quiz starts at 6 p.m. After about say 15-20 minutes, people generally start losing interest. So you need to keep their attention. So therefore, I generally try and keep the best questions, shorter questions towards. So the longer questions are in the beginning, because the longer questions take time to read, understand. So the longer questions are towards the beginning, the shorter questions are towards the end. The best questions are towards the end, because the better questions generally keep the interest levels high. So you place the questions in such a way that their interest do not wane. You keep the fun questions towards you so that the interest doesn't wane. So a lot of psychology at play in quizzes as well.
So you use music, you use fun questions. What else do you use to keep the audience engaged or on their toes? Because you want the audience also to be involved.
Exactly. Generally, there is this concept of throwing the questions open to the audience. So if the teams don't answer, more often than not, the audience will end up answering. So we have in plenty of quizzes across the country, we have audience prizes at stake. And again, they need not be cash prizes. We have books on offer to teams, book coupons on offer to the audience. We have chocolates on offer to the audience. So generally people, more often than not, they stay back, attend the entire quiz and only then go.
Wow.
And again, that comes in with quizzing culture in the city. So Bangalore is one city where you can very prominently see that happening. People generally stay back and attend the entire quiz. Even if you don't qualify for the finals, people just stay back and sit through the entire quiz.
Yeah, because you're sort of self-evaluating.
Exactly.
Would I have been, had I been there, answered these questions? And they get to learn a lot.
Exactly. Quizzing again is about meeting a lot of good old friends from time immemorial. So most of the people who will be attending this quiz, I've known them for nearly 2 decades now. So again, quizzes are an opportunity to catch up with old friends and have a good time.
This is very intriguing. Tell me the process that you as a quizzer go through. How different is it when you're reading material, you're reading books? Or how does the process work and how does the memory work? We'll get to the memory in a bit, but how does the process of...
I don't think memory works at all. Again, that's one main...
Are you somebody who has poor memory?
I don't know. My memory has let me down more often than not. I would like to have good memory, but I don't think I do. Again, setting a quiz is an extremely time-intensive and long process. So, to set a quiz for an audience that is going to attend it today, arguably the best quizzers in India will be in attendance today. So, to set a quiz for them again, to set the quiz that I am going to do today, takes about 3 to 4 weeks on an average. So, you read say 10-15 articles or 10-15 sources, you may end up with one good question. For example, let me show you an example. So this is from a quiz that I did at IIM Bangalore in 2017. The same quiz when I did at IIM Bangalore in 2017. This was a question I asked. Let me just show you the visual first and let me try and get you to answer it. These are paintings by this Dutch artist called Piet Mondrian. So Piet Mondrian's paintings generally are very abstract representation of geometric figures, mostly squares in different colors. So squares that are red, yellow, blue, etc. So when a certain company, a toy manufacturer, wanted to come up with certain distinctive, they wanted to sort of stand out from other toy manufacturers or others of their own ilk. So they thought, okay, why not take inspiration from Piet Mondrian and his paintings and his colors? So which toy manufacturer borrowed its color scheme from Piet Mondrian's paintings? Again, look at the fact that these are squares, rectangles, in specific colors.
I think the easiest guess would be Lego.
But that is all that we need. So without having any idea about the answer, you got it correct. So absolutely the right answer. So this is where Lego gets its colors from. The original Lego colors are from Piet Mondrian paintings. So this is the kind of moment I was talking about. So someone who had no idea about it end up answering it and getting the thrill of answering it, and that sort of keeps them hooked on and they sort of get hooked on to quizzing and stay on.
How do you spot insights like these?
Again, for me personally,
Because these are not obvious.
exactly, it's not, which is why it is extremely time intensive.
Fiction
You
writer
got to,
sort of a person.
you got to read a lot, and my process of framing a question, I frame it in such a way that even let's say the junior most person, a school quizzer in the audience, should be able to take a good guess. So frame it in such a way and keep modifying it until your answer to the question of whether a person will be able to attempt it, whether the junior most or let's say the least experienced quizzer in attendance will be able to take a good guess. So whittle it down to such a phase where your answer is yes.
Do you have a scripting process where you actually script it down and refine it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so when I come across in Indian quizzing, the term is funda. You come across a funda,
Correct.
Yeah, you frame it, and there is a basic outline that's created first, and then you ask yourself, is this enough? No. So let me add one more clue. So when you came to the room a little while earlier, that's what I was doing. I was just going through it, all questions one last time. Is this enough? Yes, this is enough. Is this enough? No. Let me add one more clue. Is this enough? I think I need to highlight a word, so let me highlight it. So that process goes on, and perfection cannot be attained, but you still try and frame every single question in such a way that yes, at least one team can take a good shot and get to the answer. My core philosophy is every question should get answered. A lot of people don't agree with it. A lot of people think questions should not be answered, but my philosophy is it should be answered because there is no greater pressure than answering a question.
Yeah. Getting it right.
Correct. Just like a police officer solving a murder case or a doctor solving a patient's symptoms and getting to a diagnosis. So same philosophy applies here. The thrill can only be experienced, it cannot be put to words. All of us have gone through it. Almost all members of the Indian quizzing community have gone through it, and which is why they are still quizzing after. I mean, we've had quizzers who are 80 years old, 80, 90 years old. I mean, he's no longer with us, passed away a couple of years ago. G.H. Hiranyappa, one of the forefathers of quizzing in Bangalore. He attended a quiz as an 85-year-old, and the same quiz had an 8-year-old attending. So that was the, two extremes. So that's the core tenet of quizzing in India. You'll find children as well as octogenarians attending the same event.
And I think that's what inspires children looking at somebody in their 80s
and
hitting the nail on
children these days are way better than people 4-5 times their age. Primarily because there are more avenues available to them.
They have the reinforcement, instant feedback from the
more quizzes now. More visibility for quizzes rather. When I was a kid, I mean, you really had to struggle to know about quizzes. Okay, there's this quiz happening in Bangalore. You may come across it through a newspaper. There's no internet, nothing. But that's not the case now. Every single quiz gets advertised across the country. Anyone can travel to any city and attend quizzes. There's more visibility. There are more avenues to learn. You have the internet right at your fingertips. You have any query, just Google and find out the answer.
Weirdly, the entire quizzing is exactly opposite of all the people who have a very strong hold of, hey, why do I have to memorize it? I can just look it up. And this is the exact opposite.
Exact opposite. Yeah. So the best quizzers in the country, of course, they know their stuff. They remember stuff, but more often than not, they are extremely good at working stuff out as well. They are good at spotting clues and putting them together and getting to an answer. I mean, the best quizzes always manage to do this.
Because you mentioned your memory isn't that well enough. How do you remember this mountain of information?
I don't try and actively remember anything. If something is interesting, it automatically sticks to your mind. For example, 221B Baker Street happens to be Sherlock Holmes' fictional address in the Sherlock Holmes stories. But Lord Swaraj Pol, Indian expatriate UK MP, he was based out at 221A Baker Street. And that's an extremely interesting funda. A real life person based next to a fictional address. So something like that sort of sticks into your mind. Another example. So in the Sherlock Holmes stories, his favorite book is The 12th Night.
Okay.
Let me ask this the other way around.
Okay.
So, in the Sherlock Holmes stories...
I've become a test group now.
In the Sherlock Holmes stories, his birthday is never mentioned. Okay. But there is the Sherlock Holmes fan society that has really dug deep into all the works and sort of figured out, okay, Sherlock Holmes's birthday is most likely January 6th. And they deduced this because Arthur Conan Doyle ended up mentioning one particular book as Sherlock Holmes's favorite in the series. So based on this, they thought, okay, since he doesn't have an official birthday, let's put Jan 6th as his unofficial birthday and have all Sherlock Holmes related functions on Jan 6th every year. So what does this book that's been mentioned in the Sherlock Holmes stories that sort of got Sherlock Holmes fans to celebrate his birthday on Jan 6th? It's a Shakespearean work. So Jan 6th is actually the 12th night after Christmas. So this is the 12th night by Sherlock Holmes, Shakespeare, which has been mentioned multiple times in the stories, which is what people picked up. Okay, it's the 12th night, that's actually the 12th night after Christmas, which is Jan 6th. So let's have his birthday on Jan 6th.
Very interesting reasoning. But there's an entire narrative.
Yeah, you have to put this. So if you ask this, why is Sherlock Holmes' birthday on Jan 6th? Nobody will be able to answer. But you frame it in such a way, incorporate the Shakespearean clue, incorporate timeline
like
references.
A build-up, exactly. And then the climax is the answer.
Exactly. You just want people to spot these things, put them together, get one answer.
But the beautiful thing is an app is not able to do this.
There is no substitute to the human thing.
Create the narrative.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, which is why there is no substitute to live quizzes. Online quizzes, I mean, it was just... During the pandemic, you couldn't really get together, which is why online quizzes sort of, held for a couple of years, but there is no substitute to the human factor at quizzes. The best quizzes are always offline quizzes where you get together. I mean, you're not getting together to quiz just for the questions, you're getting together for that interaction that you've had with your friends for a long time. It's more like an outing for a lot of us. A lot of us attend
quizzes.
It's
like a pastime on a Sunday evening or Saturday morning.
Exactly.
Do you guys get drunk and you play quizzes?
There are people who function better drunk. I know quizzes who can answer stuff only when drunk. They may not be able to answer when they are sober, but if they are drunk, they absolutely hit the bullseye. I actually know people who are like that.
Silly
and
question.
Again,
do people get stoned to get more imaginative and creative?
You have no idea. I would compare the best quiz fest to something like Woodstock in 1969.
What is Woodstock in 1969 for the
Woodstock in 1969 was
we only remember the Summer of Love 1969, nothing else.
Crazy, awesome music festival that happened in New York State, where people from across the world came together, had fun, totally sloshed stone. So same thing. So Great Quiz Fest is one where all of this happens. There is this quote about Woodstock. The cream of the underground will be there. Everybody's coming from all over the country. There'll be drugs and psychedelics and music and riots. That's what happens at the Best Quiz Fest. There will be drugs and psychedelics and music and riots.
Oh, wow. Are there girls too? It's become very boring.
Some of the greatest quizzes I've seen in my life, come across in my life, are all women. So like Mohanka from Calcutta, Debashri Mitra from Bangalore. Amazing quizzes, can beat anyone on any given day. So
what's
wonderful lady quizzes that I've been privileged to quiz with and against.
Wow. This now feels like an equal footing for people who...
But I mean, of course, in a country like India, there will be issues with regards to travel, safety for women. I hope we can improve it in such a way that they don't really need to think twice before attending a quiz, whether it will get late, whether some simple infrastructural issues. So whether there will be a separate toilet, whether there will be transport after, let's say, a quiz that ends at 8 p.m. So these are things that still keep a lot of people from attending quizzes. I hope we can get to a situation, a day where none of these will be issues. The aim is to make a quiz a safe space for everyone, be it a kid, be it a lady, be it an 80-year-old. I mean, a quiz should be equally accessible to all. It should have no embargo on anyone attending. All the facilities should be there. So hopefully we will always have quizzes that cater to everyone.
Quick question. What book have you come across which has had like the highest Funda ratio to the pages?
Very tough question. But one person whose books I've really, really admired primarily because of the amount of information in these pages are by Saman Subramanian. Saman Subramanian is amongst the best quizzers to ever come out of India. He's also a journalist who's written for the New York Times, The Guardian, The New Yorker. He's based out of the UK now. He's written multiple books like this. His first book was called Following Fish, where he traveled across the length and breadth of India and documented fish dishes in Bangalore, in Kerala, in Bombay, in Calcutta. And the amount of information in that book was just unbelievable. Maybe because he's a quizzer, he approached the matter as a quizmaster and tried to incorporate as much as information, interesting information. Let's take the example of the river Ganga. So Ganga has multiple distributaries. So before it ends up in the Sundarbans, it veers off into multiple. So there is the Meghna, there is the Padma. So if you look at these branches of the Ganga, you'll find that fishes in one branch are thinner than the other. So fishes in one branch are fatter, the other are thinner. Why? What is the reason for this?
Very interesting.
And someone actually went and figured out the reason, and it was like, wow. So basically the thing
Maybe
is...
the terrain must have been the problem. Yeah, was it a
Go
hilly
on.
terrain, so you'll have to
Go on,
sweat it out.
Go on. Correct concept,
Yeah.
but think again, this is a delta.
Correct.
It's emptying into a delta, so you have the right concept,
Yeah.
just a matter of...
Yeah, I feel like the terrain would have changed the flora and fauna also.
What do you mean by terrain? Instead of, let's say,
you
instead of going up, think along similar lines, but
like
not going up.
You'll have to like swim harder against the current because the water is going up, right? You have to swim harder. And the other set of fishes may have had an easy swim because the water is facilitating the speed.
Almost there. We'll give you the full 10 points. Excellent answer there.
Start the quiz here.
Excellent answer there. So basically, one branch has more silt in it.
Silt? Oh,
Yeah, so
the
since it's a
density is
delta,
higher.
correct. The density is higher, so the fishes have to swim harder against it. So they need, they need to sweat it out more. So such fishes are thinner, whereas the one with lesser silt, they don't have to really sweat it out. So fishes in that branch are fatter. So it's such an amazing thing.
Such a beautiful insight.
Absolutely.
And the funda is on point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
His second book was called This Divided Island, which was about the history of Sri Lanka, the contemporary history of Sri Lanka and the LTT and all that happened in the island. So it opens with such a beautiful imagery of everything. If you look at the map of Sri Lanka, it's like a teardrop, or you could something like this, and
something like the mic.
Yeah, so he sort of, and there is Jaffna, the top part. It's sort of separated from the mainland, as in the main island, like a lid coming out. So Samanth, in his book, he opens it with a very beautiful description of Sri Lanka, primarily deriving from its shape on a map and the fact that the tip was sort of separate. So what does he compare the map of Sri Lanka to? As in, what is the comparison that he makes to open?
Fruit maybe?
No. Let me just draw it out for you. So this is how the map is like, and this is how Jaffna is like. So this will sort of come out. Right. And it's a very explosive situation there. It's a very explosive situation. Explosive situation in Sri Lanka. LTT, very explosive situation.
Are you telling me this is like a hand grenade or something?
Brilliant answer. That's the comparison he makes. Sri Lanka, because of its shape, it's like a hand grenade, and this is the pin of the grenade coming out.
Oh, that's out.
Correct. Beautiful comparison, and again, that's classic Samanth. So to answer your questions, Samanth would be one of my first. I voraciously track and read everything that he writes on Guardian, be it New York Times, be it New Yorker, all his books, all his articles, because of the information contained in them. Wow. One person I would recommend to everyone would be Samanth and his work.
Okay, final two questions. What's a recent purchase you've made under 10,000 rupees that has helped you become a better quizzer?
The most recent book that I purchased is something called History of the World in 100 Animals. So it's the entire, somebody's really tried to condense the entire human history and tell that story through the story of 100 animals. It opens with a section on lions, lion, the king of the jungle and everything. It's a fascinating book. So, I mean, I've not really completed it, but amongst the best purchases I've made, it's not 10,000, it's not worth 10,000, it's just about 800 rupees. Again, a book that I would wholeheartedly recommend to everyone, History of the World in 100 Animals.
All the links will be in the show notes. And please do check them out and get the books.
I mean, I would request, beg, recommend the bookstore blossoms to everyone. If you like to read, if you're a quizzer, go to Blossom, or even Bookworm in Bangalore. Spend the entire day there, and the kind of stuff that you can unearth from treasure island,
hunt. It's a treasure hunt.
Absolutely. So Blossoms would be my, so whenever I came to, so for the last 2 years I've not been able to come to Bangalore. My first visit to Bangalore after the pandemic was in March 2022. My first, so I got out of the airport, booked my cab, straight Blossom. First visit to Bangalore was to Blossom.
My Gowda, if you're listening, look, you have a follower here.
Mai has been a big supporter of the quizzing community in Bangalore.
Mai is the founder of Blossoms, guys. We'll someday have him on Galata and share the story of how he started and built the largest bookstore in the city.
Absolutely.
Lovely interacting with you. Got a really good sense of the quizzing world.
Again, like I mentioned earlier, it's an underground thing that not too many people have a good idea about. A lot of people have so many misconceptions about quizzing. A lot of people don't really know how closely knit a community, how wonderful a community, how much fun people have attending quizzes. So again, one has to be there, go through a few quizzes to get the hang of it, and only then that's off. So if you are in a city where you can access quizzes, my recommendation would please go attend quizzes and have fun attending these quizzes. I mean, it won't come in a single day. You may find it tough to start with, but you attend a few quizzes, just like you answered every single question I asked you right now. So
you almost handed it to me. It won't be this easy.
I would close it with what I said earlier. There's so much pleasure to be gained from useless knowledge. Don't attend a quiz with the aim of winning it. Don't attend a quiz with the aim of getting money to take back home. Attend it with the aim of gaining pleasure from useless knowledge.
This is the fun with all the intellect that's been accomplished over years. So I hope you go and check out a quiz nearby, and do write to me on my Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. I will attach all the ways to reach out to Chandrakanth in the show notes. On that note, go and make some Galata.
Go make some Galata.
Yes. Go and make some Galata, guys.